history remembers kings for their power, generals for their victories, and explorers for the lands they discovered. But some men are remembered for something greater. David Livingstone was not driven by gold, empire, or fame. He was driven by faith and a deep love for a people he had never met. This is the story of the man who walked into Africa and gave it his heart. David Livingstone was born in 1813 in the small industrial town of Blantyre, Scotland. His home was tiny. His family was poor. Life was hard. At just 10 years old, David began working in a cotton mill, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. The air was thick with dust. The machines were deafening. But David refused to let poverty define him. Every spare moment, he read. At night, after long shifts, he studied by candlelight, science, medicine, theology, the Bible. While other boys dreamed of rest, David dreamed of purpose. One day, David read a report from missionary Robert Moffat working in southern Africa. Moffat wrote of endless lands, thriving villages, and people who had never heard the gospel. One line burned into David's heart. I have sometimes seen the smoke of 1,000 villages where no missionary has ever been. That sentence would follow him for the rest of his life. David believed God was calling him, not to comfort, but to sacrifice. He trained as both a medical doctor and a missionary, convinced that healing bodies would open doors to healing souls. In 1840, he was ordained and sent to Africa. He was 27 years old. Africa was nothing like Europe. The heat was relentless. Diseases were deadly. Travel was slow and dangerous. Yet David did something unusual. He did not stay behind mission walls. He walked with the people. He learned local languages. He listened to stories. He respected African leadership and traditions. To David Livingstone, Africans were not subjects. They were equals. This earned him trust and changed his understanding of mission work forever. David married Mary Moffat, daughter of missionary Robert Moffat. Mary was strong, devoted, and brave. Together, they faced droughts, sickness, hunger, and isolation. But Africa was unforgiving. Their children suffered frequent illnesses. Mary was forced to return to Britain multiple times. Their marriage was stretched by distance, hardship, and sorrow. Yet David believed their sacrifice was necessary. While living among the Tswana people, a lion began attacking villagers. David joined a hunting party. Suddenly, the lion charged. It seized him, crushed his arm, shook him violently. His bones shattered. His arm was permanently damaged. Many thought he would die, but David survived. Later, he said this moment bound him forever to the African people because they had risked their lives to save his. As David traveled deeper into Africa, he witnessed horror. The Arab slave trade was ravaging the land. Villages burned, families torn apart, children chained. David wrote of roads littered with skeletons, people who died from exhaustion or cruelty. This changed him forever. He realized preaching alone could not save Africa. He believed slavery could only end through Christianity, education, and legitimate trade. Thus began his mission to open Africa to the world, not for exploitation, but for justice. David Livingstone began exploring vast regions no European had mapped. He crossed deserts, navigated swamps, survived malaria over 30 times. In 1855, he stood before a thunderous waterfall, known locally as Mosi Oa Tunya. He named it Victoria Falls, but he never claimed it. Africa was not his to own. His journals exposed the brutality of slavery and challenged European racism. In 1862, tragedy struck again. Mary Livingstone died of illness in Africa. David was devastated. Yet instead of returning home, he pressed further inland, searching for the source of the Nile. Years passed. No letters, no news. The world assumed he was dead. In 1871, journalist Henry Morton Stanley was sent to find him. After months, Stanley found Livingstone in Ujiji, weak, ill, but still working. Stanley offered rescue. Livingstone refused. Africa was still suffering. By 1873, David Livingstone could no longer walk. One morning, his companions found him kneeling by his bed. He had died in prayer. His African companions performed an act of extraordinary loyalty. They buried his heart in African soil, saying, "His heart belongs to Africa." They carried his body over 1,000 miles to the coast. David Livingstone did not conquer Africa. He loved Africa. He exposed slavery. He honored African humanity. He walked where others would not. He once wrote, "I am prepared to go anywhere, provided it be forward." And forward he went, into hardship, into history, into eternity. Livingstone grew up poor, yet he could have lived a quiet, comfortable life in Europe. Instead, he chose purpose over comfort. A meaningful life often demands sacrifice. If your purpose is clear, hardship will not stop you. Despite factory work and poverty, Livingstone educated himself. He studied medicine and theology, which became tools for service. Your background does not limit your future. Learning equips you to serve better and go farther. In Africa, his medical skills opened doors that preaching alone could not. Livingstone did not treat Africans as inferior. He learned their languages, honored their leaders, and lived among them. Real influence comes from respect. People listen when they feel valued, not conquered. This lesson is crucial today in leadership, missions, business, and nation building. Livingstone spoke boldly against the slave trade. This made him unpopular in some political and commercial circles. Silence in the face of injustice is also a decision. Courage means speaking truth even when it's uncomfortable. Livingstone spent years unknown, forgotten, and assumed dead. He was not working for applause. True service is doing what is right, even when no one is watching. Your impact may be unseen now, but it still matters. Livingstone's faith was practical. He healed. He protected. He documented injustice. He endured. He lived the gospel. Faith is most powerful when it is lived out daily, not just spoken. Livingstone died kneeling in prayer, still committed to his mission. How you finish matters. A life well lived is one that remains faithful to the end. When his companions buried his heart in African soil, it was symbolic. Where your heart is, your life will follow. David Livingstone reminds us that a single life driven by faith, courage, and love can change history for generations.